Well, Young Justice fans, we got a fairly interesting update from Greg Weisman earlier today, and although it's not the news we want, it does give us some insight on what has to go on behind the scenes, and I think it's pretty important for fans to understand the big picture. So let's dive into the report. Well guys, I know many of you are more than ready for Season 5 of Young Justice, and Greg Weisman dropped a little tweet today giving us a little bit of a peek behind the scenes and what has to happen to get the new show. I know all of you guys are more than excited for any Young Justice news you can get, so I thought this would be something you would find interesting. Now, before we dive into that though, we wanted to give a shout out to my favorite podcast, Who Would Win? If you're unfamiliar with Who Would Win, it is a geek and comedy podcast that debates battles between superheroes and villains from the worlds of comics, sci-fi, and fantasy, giving fans really educated takes on all of these characters and creating collisions like you have never seen. I definitely recommend you check it out. Now, like we said earlier today, Greg Weisman dropped a tweet, and it did give us some insight into what's going on and whether he will actually be at SDCC this year. Now, the original tweet comes via the Comic Book Reporter, and in that tweet, he actually asked Greg, if DC attends SDCC 2023, are they allowed to announce a new season of Young Justice without Greg? Now, his response was fairly interesting. This is what he had to say. Absolutely. I have no legal rights to Young Justice, which is not me hinting at anything, just answering the question posed. But DC wouldn't announce an animated series. It would be WBA or whatever network streaming service picked it up. Again, I'm not hinting. We do not have a pickup as of yet. Now, let's dissect what Greg said here because there's a couple things going on. First and foremost, he's making it pretty clear they don't have a pickup as of yet. This means nothing has been signed or no deals are done, and honestly, Greg has been pretty much an open book on most of this material, so if he had something he could report, I'm sure he would. Quite honestly, if there was anything to be hinted at, I actually think he would hint at it, trying to bring some fan excitement to it, but he is a consummate professional, has done this for a really long time, and is not likely to give away any details until it's appropriate. Now, he did say in the past he wasn't going to SDCC this year, and he hasn't given any indications that has changed, so we probably should keep that in mind. Now, the other interesting thing he said is that it wouldn't come from DC, but it would be WBA, which is Warner Brothers Animation, or whichever network or streaming service could have potentially picked it up. Now, this means Amazon or Netflix, or maybe even Amazon Prime, will be the ones most likely to make this announcement. But it could also show up at a Warner Brothers Animation announcement, which is something that more than likely would be separate from the DC presentation, which will be set up in Hall H. Now, we are on the countdown to SDCC because it's only about a month and a half away. And honestly, guys, looking at the story right now, it seems like if we get an announcement, it will be a big surprise. The show has incredible metrics and ratings and a super high level of fan demand, as we've reported on in the past. But once again, we are completely enslaved to what Warner Brothers Animation is deciding to do with the show, and hopefully by SDCC they work out a deal with one of these streaming platforms. Until then, all we can do is buy more Young Justice comics. Young Justice Targets is about to drop, so I highly encourage you to buy that. There's a link for that down below. And also keep using those hashtags, Renew Young Justice Season 5, and Save Earth 16. Just make sure you keep your messages positive, and let's keep that pressure on Warner Brothers Animation. Hopefully we know more really, really soon.